Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ari, and today we're going to have some more stories about our toxic life. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to my channel, like the video, if you enjoy it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now without further ado, let's go. Today's first story. In this story, the couple, despite her loyalty during the early years, suspicions arose when he received anonymous messages about her behavior on their yacht. After discovering incriminating evidence and confirming her infidelity through hidden cameras, he exposed her actions publicly. The scandal destroyed her reputation, leading to a contentious divorce and her eventual fall from a privileged lifestyle to struggling financially. Now, let's get into the story. My wife and I had been together for a total of 14 years. 9 of those were in marriage. When we finally got married, I was certain I was making the right decision. I waited many years before proposing, so I could be sure she was an honorable woman who truly wanted a lifelong relationship. So many women today don't know what they want. They claim they want a marriage and a husband, but once they get used to that, they become bored and change their minds. My wife proved me wrong. She stayed loyal to me in the 5 years leading up to my proposal and several years into our marriage. She helped me through the loss of my father and all the times I struggled to press on. I was in college to become a surgeon, and it was no easy task. I relied on her to take care of me because much of the time, my brain was filled with medical terms and the things I had to remember. On the days she wasn't home or able to help me, I was so busy and absorbed in my work that I didn't eat and felt scrambled. She was my rock and peace, the kind of woman a man makes his wife. Once I started working as a surgeon, I saved money for 1 year and then bought us a mansion. I don't like bragging. I'm just telling the truth. My wife was set for life. She had a man that loved her more than anything and chose to share his wealth, prosperity, and life with her. I knew she loved me because she stayed with me through the times when I was too busy and exhausted to give her any special attention. I made up for it by taking her out weekly to the hottest spots in town. Eating, dancing, go-kart racing, whatever she wanted. We went to festivals, concerts, parties, beaches, you name it. Eventually, we bought a yacht and started hosting parties. I could tell my wife was loving this. She started some social media accounts that became glorified. I didn't really like that, but I didn't feel like I could tell her to stop. So many people have accounts like it, and she really enjoyed it. I didn't have any accounts myself, so I didn't see everything she posted. She posted a lot of photos and videos with me and her, and it was fun. I felt like our life together was the best life I could have ever asked for. My wife made a name for herself as a wealthy, sociable, beautiful woman that is worth getting to know. Whenever we hosted parties, more and more people started to attend. I wasn't very emotionally invested in any of these people because I didn't have very much time off work. My energy was divided between my work and my wife. While I worked, my wife stayed home. She sent me a selfie every day to update me with what she was doing. Around the time I started to realize I didn't want us to host parties anymore, I got random texts at work. I received lots of random messages from people that knew me before. I knew them. This one was bad news, though. It said that my wife was messing around with people on the yacht while I was at work. By the time I saw this message, hours had passed. I called my wife right away, and she answered calmly. She was confused when I told her about the text. She assured me she never takes the yacht out without me. I wanted to believe her because she had never given me a reason to doubt her. She was upset and irritated that some random person was trying to get her husband to question her integrity. The next morning, I stopped at the yacht before work to take a picture of the gas gauge. I also noticed the trash can was empty. While I was in my office, my wife messaged me saying she spoke to the person who texted me and cleared up the confusion. She said that this was a woman who was jealous of our relationship and lifestyle. I asked her how she got the number, and it took her a while to reply. She finally admitted that she couldn't sleep the night prior, so she looked at my phone to get the number. I asked her what the woman's name was, and she didn't want to tell me. She just told me not to worry about it, and that encountering haters was inevitable. I let it go for the moment and just replied asking her that we not host a party that weekend. I didn't feel like it. Instead, I wanted to spend time alone with her. She didn't reply to my message at all. On the way home, I checked the gas gauge of the yacht. It was noticeably lower. Noticing this, I started to snoop around the boat. Under a cushion, I found a button I didn't recognize. I laid on the bed and smelled cologne I didn't know. I continued looking for about 30 minutes before I checked the trash can. There, I found a bunch of used napkins and paper towels. I went home prepared to confront my wife with the evidence that she took the yacht out without me and must have had someone with her. Before I could get out a word, she demanded to know why I didn't want to host a party that weekend. In response, I asked her why she wanted to host another party this weekend. She just stared at me like I was stupid before she asked, "Why wouldn't we?" I was getting annoyed, so I told her I noticed the change in the gas gauge. She looked dumbfounded and asked me how I knew it was different, so I told her I checked it before I went to work. She blew up on me. She couldn't believe that I didn't trust her and went so far as to gather evidence against her. I told her it was my right to investigate my boat and wife for any signs of dishonesty. She scoffed and said she didn't know why I thought the gas was less, because she wasn't on the boat that day. That's when I brought up the stuff in the trash can. She looked extremely embarrassed and wouldn't make eye contact with me. She threw her hand up and walked away like a snotty supermodel. When Saturday morning came, she started preparing food that she wanted to bring on the yacht for a party. I reminded her that I didn't want her to host a party this weekend. I wanted her to stay home with me so we could spend quality time together. She said if I didn't want to go, I could stay home, but I couldn't make her stay home because it was her boat just as much as it was mine. This really irritated me. I told her she wasn't being a fair or considerate wife, and I missed how she used to be. Her face softened, and she said she just wanted to have a great time on the yacht with me and her friends in the time I had off. She got close to me and started rubbing my chest. In the hopes that I could spy on my wife and the people she spent time with, I caved in. I wanted her to believe I was going to have fun, even though this was strictly an investigation. On the boat, she talked to a lot of people, but it was mostly men. The women on the boat were just looking for the man that was going to worship them the way they believed they deserved, and the men on the boat just wanted to find the next girl to play with. All the conversations seemed pointless, and I was growing impatient. This wasn't what I had in mind when I considered marriage. I thought it would just be me and my wife, but now she chose to surround herself with other people. She tried to say she was friends with women and men, but I was seeing something completely different. One man in particular seemed to be the center of her attention. I approached them and introduced myself. He seemed innocent enough, just a regular guy with a regular business. However, he smelled like the mystery cologne on the bed below deck. The next morning before work, I installed a well-hidden camera on the boat, pointing at the bed. It was connected to an app on my phone. I could speak through the camera too. Even though I was suspicious, I was very surprised when I checked the live feed after I got out of surgery. I could see my beautiful wife going at it with the same smelly man. I watched in horror for a few seconds before I voiced my opinion through the camera. They both jumped, struggled to cover themselves, and looked around. It took them 9 minutes to find the camera. My wife was so infuriated that she rummaged around to find a wrench and started beating the camera. That was the woman she became. An entitled, selfish, inconsiderate monster that did not want to face the consequences of her actions. I posted the video of her getting caught online, and it got hundreds of thousands of views, more than her glorified accounts. The video became associated with her accounts, and the scandal was talked about everywhere. She became known as the boat-partying wife of a doctor that lost it all. We had signed a prenup, so she didn't get anything in the divorce. I don't think she ever planned on doing what she did. She became brainwashed and obsessed with the attention and validation of people, men, that weren't her husband, and it poisoned her until she couldn't function as a loyal wife anymore. With her image ruined and nothing to her name, she had no idea what to do with herself. She tried so hard to turn her publicity into an opportunity for income, but she failed. She ended up taking a lousy job and room for rent just to survive without me. Today's second story. In this story, OP discovered his girlfriend's cheating when he saw her being intimate with another man at her bar job. She claimed to be polyamorous to justify her actions, but her behavior contradicted this. After finding compromising photos and videos, he reported her and her manager to the bar's owner, resulting in their termination. Now let's get into the story. I, 24 male, met my girlfriend, 23 female, 5 years ago in college. I saw her in the library one day, obviously cramming for some test, and I went over to disturb her. I thought she was cute, and I asked her for a number, and she gave it to me. We went to a really big school, so I really had never seen her before we met in the library. I didn't know much about her before then. When we started going out, she told me about all of these clubs and organizations she was involved in, one of which was an LGBTQ organization on campus. I met all of her friends, and we all got along very well. I was invited into their group, and we spent the last couple of years in undergrad very close. After graduation, we all stayed in the same city, and we lived fairly close to each other. We still saw each other regularly, and my girlfriend and I moved in together. Everything seemed perfectly normal. I never had any reason to doubt my girlfriend's intentions with me. We both were very much in love, and we saw a future together. We had some struggles early on living together, but it was mainly just us getting used to the habits and flaws that we had been able to overlook prior to living with each other. We worked through them, and we learned to accommodate each other. About 6 months into living with each other, my girlfriend picked up a part-time job at a local bar. She worked as a server while we were in school, so we both knew that she could make a good amount of extra income doing it a few nights a week. I never suspected anything was going on while she was at work. I assumed she was just doing her duties. I started to notice that something was off when she was taking the little free time she had to spend with me and going into the bar to work instead. It sounds somewhat childish to say this, but I felt almost neglected in the relationship. We weren't hard up for cash or anything like that. We both had our full-time job, and we made decent money. When my girlfriend took the job at the bar, it was mainly to have a little extra spending money. As time went on, we both started earning more to full-time jobs, and she didn't really even need to continue working there. I talked to her about it and told her that I wished she wouldn't spend so much time there because I missed her. She assured me that it was only temporary because she just wanted to put a certain amount in savings, then she planned on quitting. I was happy to hear that there was an end in sight for her, so I didn't say anything else about it. I knew where she worked, but I had never visited. My father struggled with alcoholism, so I don't have the best relationship with bars. If I ever drink, I'm usually home with a couple of friends, and it never gets out of hand for me. One night, I decided that I wanted to surprise my girlfriend at the bar. It has been about 2 weeks of her working almost every night, and it felt like I never got to see her. I already felt very out of place, just from walking in the door. It wasn't anything like I expected it to be. I guess by default I was sort of picturing the type of bars that I would pick my dad up in the late hours of the night. It resembled more of where I thought a nightclub might be like than a bar. I looked around for my girlfriend, and I didn't see her anywhere right away. I took a seat at the bar, and the bartender nodded at me to let me know they saw me, but told me they would be with me in just a couple of minutes. I kept my eyes peeled around the bar to look for my girlfriend. After a full sweep of the room, I finally found her. I saw her leaning up against a wall and rubbing her hands on some other man's chest. It was obviously a very flirty conversation that they were having. The man then leaned down and kissed her. I was completely frozen in shock when I saw everything. On top of that, she was in a really skimpy outfit. I looked around and all of the other servers were wearing similar clothes. She had never told me this was the type of bar where the women were supposed to wear those outfits. I'm not a controlling person, but I wouldn't have been as okay with it if I knew that. The man that kissed her started to touch her inappropriately, and my girlfriend did nothing to stop it. They were in the middle of a bar and getting very handsy with each other out in the open. My girlfriend was very into the kiss too. I just walked out and went to crash at a friend's house. I was completely heartbroken, and he comforted me while I told him about what happened. We didn't know if that man was just some customer that she was flirting with to get a bigger tip, or if she knew that man and was carrying on an affair with him. My friend calmed me down and convinced me to try to figure out who that was before I confronted my girlfriend. I listened to their reason, and I texted my girlfriend to tell her that I was crashing at their place for the night so we could avoid suspicion. The next day, my girlfriend was still asleep when I came in. She is a very heavy sleeper, so I was able to grab her phone without any issues. Thankfully, I knew her password, so I was able to get her to sleep, able to log in and take a look at her phone. I looked through her photo album and didn't see anything right away, but when I looked through her hidden album, I found a lot of pictures and videos of her with the man from the bar. There were full-on intimate tapes of the two of them. I had no idea who the man was, and I didn't know how I could even find out. But then I noticed he was wearing a name tag with his name and the word general manager underneath it. As soon as I saw his name, I realized that it was my girlfriend's manager. She had mentioned him to me in conversation, but I had no idea what he looked like. I sent myself a couple of the videos, one specifically where you could see both of their faces together. I didn't know what I was going to do with them, but I knew I wanted to get both of them fired at the very least. Unfortunately, my girlfriend woke up while I was looking through her phone. She walked out of the bedroom asking me if I had it because it wasn't next to her. So I took that opportunity to just tell her that I knew everything. When I asked her why she was cheating on me, she said that she didn't really have a good reason. She then told me that she was polyamorous, and it felt natural to her to be with two people. In a way, it felt like she was saying she was polyamorous to justify her cheating. It almost felt like she was using that to make me feel bad about being angry that she cheated. I called her out for never mentioning that she was polyamorous to me, and she told me that I just wouldn't have accepted it, so she didn't feel safe doing so. I was extremely frustrated that I was being made out to be the bad guy in this situation. I didn't know much about polyamory. However, a lot of the friends my girlfriend and I had from college who were a part of those LGBTQ groups knew a lot about it, and a couple of them were even openly polyamorous themselves. I couldn't stand listening to my girlfriend lying to me anymore, so I walked out to go back to my friend's house. While I was there, I actually FaceTimed one of the friends who I knew was polyamorous, and I asked them some questions about it. They explained it to me as a polyamorous person having a main partner and other partners aside from that. They also expressed one of the most important aspects of being polyamorous, and in relationships, is disclosing to your partner the relationships you're in. They were a little confused about why I was asking, so I told them everything. They were shocked to hear that my girlfriend had been with another man. They didn't deny 100% that she could be polyamorous, but even they agreed that it seemed like something she was saying to justify her actions. They were even a little upset that my girlfriend would use that term to try and make her cheating seem valid. The more they talked about it, the more angry they got. It was something they had a lot of issues with in the past, and they didn't like having somebody throw around the term for all the wrong reasons. While I was at my friend's house, my girlfriend called me and texted me constantly begging me to hear her out so we could have a discussion about a relationship. I just told her that there wasn't anything to discuss. We were done, and that was all there was to it. The following evening, I had a wall of text from her about how upset she was with me for turning her friends against her. Apparently, the friend that I had spoken to confronted her about how wrong it was to cheat on me and say that she was polyamorous to excuse it. I was crashing at my friend's house for about a week, and we were trying to figure out what to do about the videos we had. I was very angry, and I wanted to get back at her in some way. We ended up doing some digging, and we found out who the owner of the bar was. He was some rich guy who owned a lot of nightclubs on the East Coast. I ended up reaching out to him and telling him that one of his general managers was having an inappropriate relationship with a server. On top of that, they were very public about it while on shift. I sent him the evidence that I had, and he told me that it was unacceptable and he would deal with it. Both of them were terminated based on the evidence that I sent in. So my girlfriend cheated on me and then lied about being polyamorous, and she ended up losing a lot of her friends and her job. Even after coming out like the winner in the end, it still feels pretty bad to have had all this happen.